Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile, and for today's video, we're going to be doing another updated Lightsworn Bystial deck. Now, much like the tournament deck that I did previously the other day, this one's also going to be basically like a return to basics, as I am just refreshing myself for the most part, as I get ready for all the brand new support cards that are going to be released pretty soon in Rage of the Abyss. So I just really wanted to like cleanse my palate before I actually try to experiment with new stuff. So with that in mind, let's just jump straight into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, so we're of course going to be playing 3 Lightsworn Dragonling. The deck, or at least like the modern Lightsworn deck, just pretty much revolves around this card entirely being able to summon itself, as it's able to do that through special summon as long as you have a Lightsworn monster in your graveyard, and then when this card is special summoned, it's able to foolish any Lightsworn card from your deck to the grave. So, you know, it's just, as long as you have a Lightsworn monster in your graveyard, this card is just pretty much going to allow you to do whatever you want with the deck. And because this is a Lightsworn deck, getting cards into the graveyard is pretty much like its whole thing, right? So it shouldn't really be too much of an issue. But yeah, this card's phenomenal. And then for the other effect, which is whenever it goes to the graveyard, you're able to search your deck for any dragon with 3,000 attack, 2,600 defense, which means that it's a searchable way. It's a way to search out your judgment dragons and your punishment dragons if you decide to play them. Not every list plays them, but some do. And yeah, this card, it really just does everything for this deck. And then to accompany our 3 Dragonlings, we're playing 3 Weiss Lightsworn Archfiend. So this is the main card that you use to stack your, or like, stack the top of your deck, as it's able to take any Lightsworn card from your hand, put it on top of your deck, and then you special summon the Weiss, and then you get to mill 2 cards. So you're going to be able to control at least one of your cards that you get milled. So this is fantastic for helping you unbreak your hand when you end up drawing Felis and Wulf, because it will happen. And, you know, just level 4 light fiend tuner. If we were playing the Fiendsmith engine, this card would also be like a 1-card link 1, but we're not for this specific profile, so we're basically just using it to stack our hand, being it as a tuner, and then when it's milled from deck to grave, we're able to special summon any other Lightsworn monster except for Weiss. So yeah, much like Dragonling, this card's also phenomenal. And then for the final 3 of Lightsworn monster, we're playing 3 Wulf Lightsworn Beast. It's Wulf, you know, you mill it, you special summon it. Really straightforward. And if you're a good Lightsworn player, you won't draw them, but let's face it, every Lightsworn player is bad, so you're going to draw it. Yeah, and that's it for the 3 ofs. And then we just play a couple of 1 of Lightsworns. So we're only going for 1 Felis. I don't really enjoy Felis in Lightsworn, truth be told, just because it has to be milled by a monster effect, and that's not always going to happen, right? Sometimes you activate Charge of the Light Brigade, or just like something of that nature, and you end up milling it, it won't be able to activate its effect because it has to be milled by a monster to special summon itself. But it's still, you know, it's perfectly fine. Whether you're using it to synchro summon, exceed summon, or even using its on-field effect to destroy a face-up like monster your opponent controls, this card, it's really solid. But I really don't feel like you need more than 1. And then for the other one, just 1 Raiden, Hand of the Lightsworn. This card's fine. You don't really use your normal summon, but being able to use your normal summon on something like Raiden to just mill 2 more cards, and then the end phase effect pretty much never comes out. We're basically just using the main phase effect to mill 2, and then just opening up all your other plays, whether it's like your potential Dragonlings or your Synchro plays if you have like a Bystial and you mill the light or dark. It really does help. And that's it for the Lightsworn monsters. But for the honorary Lightsworn card, we have Judgment Dragon. Not a Lightsworn by name, but it's their boss monster of the deck, and it has been since, what, 2008? I decided to play Judgment Dragon over Punishment Dragon for one specific reason, and that's because unlike Punishment Dragon, even though it is a better card overall in my opinion, just because it's able to recycle all your resources, Judgment Dragon pretty much allows you to be a little bit more flexible with your Minerva Synchro, as unlike Punishment, it doesn't have to have 4 different names banished to summon itself. It's just 4 different names in the graveyard, which, since this is a milling deck, should be pretty simple to accomplish, much like with the Dragonling. But yeah, it's basically just there for like a level 8 extender. Sometimes, like if you're going second, you can use the pop effect and just to wipe your opponent's entire field. But like I said, this is basically just going to be like a level 8 extender that helps you make potentially exceed summons, maybe even synchro summons, depending on if you play Crimson Dragon in your extra deck, which we are not, but you know, the options are there. So yeah, 1 Judgment Dragon, perfectly fine, but it's by far like the most cuttable piece in my opinion. And they're not really that needed if you want to play the deck, but it's still like a really funny, cute card. And that's it for the Lightsworn portion entirely. And then for the Bystials, we're just playing the 3 Bystial lubellions, the 1 magnamhut, the 1 druiswurm, the 1 saronir, and the 1 baldrake. Really straightforward stuff. Bystials are phenomenal at helping you deal with the Fiendsmith engine or just any light and dark decks, so that also includes Yubel. And since this is an entirely light slash dark base deck, that means you can also use them as like extenders yourself, right? So the play that I mentioned earlier with like Raiden, where you just normal summon it to mill 2, potentially light or dark, one of the best things that you can do, I guess, is normal your Raiden, mill 2 cards. If you hit a light or dark and you have a Bystial in your hand, you have an instant level 10 Synchro. Now previously that would make Baron to floor, but because Baron's banned, we are pretty much just going to be making cards like, well, if you're going like second, you can make like Chaos Angel, but the main target's going to be like Bystial Dissipator, just because it's able to bring back banished monsters and potentially like negate your opponent's monsters' effects or destroy them. So yeah, really solid cards whether you're using them offensively or defensively. And then after that, we just have like a bunch of one-of monsters to help us round out our mills and just, you know, in general, help the deck progress and extend further. So we have our shufflers in Keldo and Mudora, probably the worst one-ofs in the deck if I'm being honest, just because you never want to draw them, and you probably will end up drawing them at some point, much like Wulf and Felis, but you know, that's just the nature of the deck. But even so, they're still really good at helping you get like, or helping you deal with your grind game, because it's very easy for you to just straight up have 0 cards in your deck at the end of your turn. So having Mudora and Keldo be able to just shuffle them back to ensure that you don't auto lose to just a pass you don't auto lose to your opponent just passing turn is invaluable. And there are some times where like you mill a key card, like for say for example a Felis, right? You milled it early off like a Charge of the Light Brigade, and you're gonna need it for your Dragonling later, so you can just shuffle it back, special summon your Dragonling, send Felis, and then if you hadn't used up Weiss, obviously, but that's like a case-by-case basis, but the plays are there for you to use this offensively and defensively, much like the Bystials. Next, since this is basically like a Lightsworn Dragon mash, I really enjoy playing the baby Chaos Dragon, so that means we play the one collapserpent as well as the one wyverburster. They're fine, you know, just general good extenders that search one another. Then for the other ones, we play the one Ringowurm. So this card is honestly pretty cool. We never use the hand effect, but we're pretty much always using the graveyard effect, which is if you like Synchro summon a level 8 monster for this turn, right, which we are always going to do because of the Minerva Synchro, you're able to banish this card from your grave and then summon a level 2 tuner token. And if you happen to have a bunch of level 8s, say your Judgment Dragon, for example, or the Minerva still on the field, you're then in turn able to Synchro for a level 10 monster. And, you know, just those cute little synergies go a long way in just helping you set up such oppressive and hard to deal with boards. So I really like this card and what it's able to offer for the deck. And then we're also playing the one Starliege Seyfert Dragon. The on-field effect can come up sometimes where you send dragons from your hand or field, and then you get to add one with the same level as the total level as the cards you sent. And it can send itself to search Dragonling, so it's not terrible, but I'd much rather prefer Raiden as my normal summon, so that's why I only play the one. And it does have like a graveyard effect as well, right? So you can banish it to add any level 8 or higher dragon monster, I believe. Yeah, specifically one level 8 or light or dark dragon monster from your graveyard to your hand. And we play plenty of them, right? We play Judgment Dragon, we play the Bystial lubellion, we play Chaos Dragon Levianeer, and yeah, just getting back key cards that we milled in order to extend further, much like the Ringowurm, is honestly pretty solid. And then we obviously play the one Chaos Dragon Levianeer, we play a bunch of lights, we play a bunch of darks, we can pretty much trigger whichever effect we want, whether it's to destroy cards, loop a card from our opponent's hand, or potentially reborn a monster. So yeah, you know, pretty cool. And then that's it for the dragons, but we do play 2 other graveyard cards, being the one Blackwing Zephyros. It's okay, much like the other cards, it's not very good in your hand. You'd much rather just mill this, but it's not the end of the world if you draw it. And there are a lot of really cool applications, right? Say you didn't start your turn with the Bystial lubellion, so you summon it later on, and then you're able to bounce it back with Zephyros, and then you're able to use the hand effect to search out like a specific level 4 Bystial. You can put back your Judgment Dragon, then re-special summon it immediately. And I don't know, this card, in addition to being an extender, just allows you to like reset yourself in order to make a more advantageous board in a sense. So yeah, really cool card. And then for the final one, just Performance Trick Clown. If it goes to the graveyard, it brings itself back. Pretty self-explanatory. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now, unlike the monster lineup, the spell and trap portion is ridiculously small, so this portion will be over a lot quicker. As a result, we have 3 Charge of the Light Brigade, quite literally the main consistency card, mill 3, add any Lightsworn monster, and then for the only other 3 of spell that we play, 3 Triple Texas Talent, just to help us go first or second a lot more easily, because let's face it, you are going to get hand trapped at some point, and even though this deck can push through a lot, sometimes you just need that little extra bit to break your opponent's board or prevent your opponent from playing their board. So yeah, 3 triple types talent, really invaluable, and then it's just a bunch of 1-of spells after that, being the 1 called by the grave, the 1 branded regain being the only thing that you can set off of your Bystial lubellions, the 1 chaos space to search out all of our non-normal summonable / set monsters, such as like the baby chaos dragons, the Bystial lubellion, you know, things of that nature. And then we are also playing the 1 foolish burial, basically becomes any card that we need. And then for the final spell, we're playing 1 reasoning. I don't know, I like it. It's pretty funny, and then we do play a large variety of levels, so no matter what your opponent calls, it's going to help us out, right? Because either we get a monster onto the field, or we get something in the grave, which, you know, it's a Lightsworn deck, so we're fine with either or. And then there are a lot of really cool applications, because if you hit a monster, for example, that cannot be normal summoned or set, such as Wulf or Felis, you just continue milling, right? So you can potentially hit multiple wolves before you even get to a card that you can normal summon, and then your wolves will trigger and special summon themselves, and then you know, even though your opponent called it correctly or called it wrong, it's just going to be like a inconvenient situation for them to have to deal with, because you're just getting free value all the time. And that's it for the spells. And then for the traps, we just play the 1 Lightsworn Aegis. This is just here to pretty much help us fight through cards like Forbidden Droplet and Dark Ruler No More, because they will show up at some point, and this deck does struggle against those. And with that, that's the spell and trap lineup, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now, the cool thing about a Lightsworn's extra deck is that it's honestly really flexible and allows a lot of creativity with what the player tries to accomplish. And there is no one true way that you should be playing it, just because there's so many different cards that do so many cool things available to you. So, with that in mind, we're of course playing the 1 Minerva Synchro, where on summon, it's able to foolish Lightsworn monsters from your deck to the grave equal to the number of Lightsworn monsters used as material for this card. So it can do anywhere from between 0 to 2. Ideally, you use 2 Lightsworn cards to make this, just because, you know, milling is good. And then as for its other effect, you get to mill, or you get to banish up to 4 Lightsworn monsters from your graveyard, and then you get to mill the amount of cards that you banished. So because we don't play the Punishment Dragon, that means we can be a little bit more relaxed with our choices, right? Or not relaxed, but like flexible with our choices. We don't have to banish 4 different names. And that's like a common problem that I'd often run into, right? Where sometimes you just didn't have enough different names, and that would mean that your Punishment Dragon would be worthless because you'd have a difficult time being able to summon it. But now, because we play Judgment Dragon instead, that's pretty much never going to be an issue, as it's almost always going to be live compared to Punishment anyways. So we can just banish any 4 and then just mill 4 more cards. So yeah, Minerva Synchro, great card. And then for the other level 8s, we play the 1 Psy-framelord Omega, just a really good generic level 8 Synchro monster. It takes away a card from our opponent's hand, much like our levianeer, and it has the added bonus of being able to recycle cards that are banished. So say, for example, you used a shuffler, like you use the shuffler during your turn on the previous turn. You go to your opponent's standby phase. Omega is able to then put that shuffler right back into the grave so you can use it again. And then if it's in the graveyard, it's also able to recycle cards in the graveyard back into the deck. So yeah, this card really, really good. And then for the final level 8 Synchro, we're playing the 1 Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. So this is basically just in there for time, because this deck does take forever to actually, you know, play out its full combo, because it's, like I said earlier in the video, it's very easy to mill out your entire deck, and there are a lot of like there's a lot of decision making that goes into your plays, so it's just naturally going to take a long time. But even if you're not using this card for time, it does have other uses as well, as it's able to break your opponent's boards in addition to burning them. But if you're going first, for example, this is a dark dragon monster, so if you make this, you can tribute it to special summon the Bystial lubellion from your graveyard, and then potentially set up like your branded regained, or, you know, cute things like that go a long way. So I say this is a time card, but it honestly has a lot more purposes than just being a time card, and that's why I decided to play it. And that's it for the level 8 synchros, but we do play 2 other level 10s, being the Bystial Dissipator, which was mentioned earlier. This is pretty much going to be like your go-to end board piece every single time, and you basically just want to summon this almost immediately, if I'm being honest, just because it really is that damn good. Whether you're bringing back banished monsters or negating or destroying an opponent's monster's effect, and it being, you know, 3,500 attack, 3,500 defense is nothing to scoff at either. It's just a really phenomenal card. And then for the final Synchro monster, we play the 1 Chaos Angel, being probably the best going second Synchro monster, just because we play a bunch of lights, we play a bunch of darks, so it's going to be unaffected by your opponent's monster's effects. It won't be able to be destroyed by battle, and then when it hits the field, it's going to banish something, obviously. So yeah, this card is very difficult to deal with, whether you're going first or second, and it just breaks opponent's board so easily. And that's it for the Synchro monsters, and then we play a bunch of Exceed monsters, with the first one being number 41, Baguska the Terribly Tired Tapir. This is just in here for when we get hit by Drone Lockbird. I would say Dimension Shifter also, but if you get hit by Shifter, you're probably not making this, if I'm being honest. And you're going to lose that game regardless. So, you know, it's just that type of deck, unfortunately. Then, for the other rank 4s, you play the 1 Minerva the Exalted Lightsworn. Mill 3 cards. For every Lightsworn card you mill, you get a draw a card. If it's destroyed, you get to mill 3 cards as well. And then for every Lightsworn card you mill, you get a destroy a card on the field. So that effect almost never comes up, but obviously we care about the milling one for the first one. And then for the final rank 4, we're playing 1 number 60 Dugars the Timeless. So much like Minerva, this card is also a general consistency card, except instead of milling, we get to draw and discard. But the other 2 effects are also really solid as well, as you can potentially go for like the double boost attack to just game your opponent immediately, or if you're like in a tight spot and say you're like in a grind game, right? You could potentially use like the Reborn effect to bring back a Dragonling, and then Dragonling's effect to send a tuner or whatever, and then things just spiral out of control really fast. So yeah, this card, really strong, really phenomenal, has a lot of uses as well. And then that's it for the rank 4s. The only rank 8 we play is the Zombie Vampire. Stupidly easy to make, as we have the Bystial Lubellion, we have Judgment Dragon, we have all the level 8 Synchros. And then, you know, this card mills 4 from your deck and your opponent's deck, and that's honestly, it's not just milling your cards is really solid, but being able to gain knowledge of your opponent's deck by seeing what cards they milled and what, like, how to properly prepare your end board is just invaluable as well. So yeah, the Zombie Vampire, another phenomenal card. And then for the final 2 Exceed monsters, we play Zeus because we play so many Exceeds. So, you know, it can clear an entire board as long as one of your Exceed monsters battles or your opponent's Exceed monsters battles. And then we have Typhon, just in case all our cards get stopped and we need to make something. And that's it for the Exceed monsters. And then for the Link monsters, we play the 1 IP Masquerena to go into the 1 SP Little Knight. And then we're playing 1 Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. So because we lost Appaloosa, Heavenly Spheres is honestly, it's stupidly important, just because this is going to be like one of your go-to end pieces as well, but it's also one of the few cards in the deck that actually lets you play through Nibiru, as it gets tributed and then it's able to float into another dragon monster from your deck. And we play a bunch of them, right? We play the Dragonling, we play the Bystial Lubellion, we play all the other Bystials. So this card is always going to be able to get something, and then not only that, but having it as a bounce for any like card in the graveyard or face-up card on the fields can go a long way in just helping you try and stay alive. And this is actually one of the few ways that we can potentially try to play through Dimension Shifter as well. So yeah, this card, just another phenomenal card. I know I say that a lot, but I really do mean it. There's so many good cards in this extra deck. And then for the final monster, we have Saryuja's Skuldred. So this is pretty much going to be like the only big link that we can make that's actually worthwhile nowadays. And every single one of its effects are honestly pretty solid, but the 2 that we care about the most are the Draw 4, which, you know, allows us to draw 4 new cards and then set 3 for the bottom of our deck, which is a phenomenal way at helping us get rid of breaks such as like Wulf or Felis in our hand, and just trying to reset our hand to ensure that we can actually combo off. And then its other effect, to special summon a monster from our hand, this allows us to just further extend the moment it hits the field, right? So this card, it allows us to like unclutter our field by getting rid of cards we don't want. It allows us to draw deeper into our deck to get cards that we do want, and then it allows us to special summon to extend further. So yeah, Saryuja, pretty good. And with that, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.